The Endeavour hummed softly around me as I sat in the command chair, my fingers tapping nervously against the armrest. The holographic display flickered to life, illuminating the dimly lit bridge. An urgent transmission blared through the speakers, slicing through the ambient noise. Captain Thompson, we've detected an anomalous structure in Sector 47X. It's massive and appears to be floating. And it's uncharted, I finished for the officer, my heart racing. The words hung in the air, thick with potential. An ancient structure? It could mean untold knowledge, technology lost to time. What are we looking at, Ensign? The ensign's face was a mix of excitement and apprehension. Preliminary scans indicate it's made of an unknown material. Energy readings are off the charts. We need to investigate. I leaned forward, my mind racing through the possibilities. Call the crew to the briefing room. We need all hands on deck for this. As the crew gathered, I could see the mix of enthusiasm and trepidation in their eyes. Sarah Lee, our lead engineer, was already scanning through the data on her tablet. This could be a treasure trove of technology, she said, her voice laced with excitement. If we can figure out how to interface with whatever is there. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, Marco Bell, our scientist, chimed in, adjusting his glasses. We need to approach this with caution. Ancient structures can hold dangers we can't even begin to comprehend. I nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility on my shoulders. Marco's right. We can't afford to overlook safety. Emily, what do you make of the energy signatures? Emily Carter, our navigator, looked up from her console, her brow furrowed in concentration. They're fluctuating, almost like a heartbeat. It's unlike anything I've ever seen. If we get too close, we might not be able to pull away. Then we'll approach carefully, I replied, determination hardening my resolve. Prepare for course adjustments. Set a trajectory to the fortress. I want to know what we're dealing with. As we moved closer, the ship began to shake. Captain, we're caught in a gravitational pull. Emily shouted, her fingers dancing over her controls. Sarah, stabilize us. I barked, adrenaline coursing through my veins as the ship trembled. I'm trying, but the gravitational field is erratic. Sarah's voice rose above the chaos. We're being pulled in too fast. Emily, can you redirect the power from the auxiliary systems? I shouted, panic creeping into my tone. On it, she replied, her focus intense as she worked the controls. Just hold on. The Endeavour groaned as Sarah wrestled with the ship's systems. I could see the tension in her jaw, the sweat beading on her forehead. Almost there, come on. Finally, with a surge, the ship stabilized, the violent shaking easing as we regained control. We're in a stable orbit around the fortress, Emily announced, breathing heavily. Good work, team, I said, allowing a moment of relief to wash over me. Now, let's assess our landing options. I want to get a closer look at that structure. As we prepared to land, the enormity of the fortress loomed before us, a dark silhouette against the star-speckled void. It was an awe-inspiring sight, a remnant of a civilization that had come before us. Yet, beneath the wonder, a thread of unease coiled within me. What had they wanted? What had they left behind? Once we landed, I led the team toward the entrance, but as we approached, my heart sank. The massive doors were sealed tight, as if daring us to enter. Marco, can you analyze the structure? He stepped forward, his eyes scanning the surface with a mixture of curiosity and caution. It's made from a material I've never encountered, he mused, running his fingers over the smooth, dark surface. I can't determine how to open it without further analysis. Then we'll have to find a way, I said, determination flaring within me. We need to breach this fortress and uncover its secrets. Who knows what knowledge lies within? The team exchanged glances, each of us feeling the weight of the moment. Whatever awaited us inside could change everything. As I stepped through the massive entrance of the floating fortress, a chill ran down my spine. The air was thick with an ancient energy, and I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. The hall stretched out before us, vast and eerily silent, illuminated only by faint, pulsating lights embedded within the walls. I turned to my crew, their expressions mirroring my own unease. Stay close, everyone, I said, trying to sound more confident than I felt. We don't know what we're dealing with here. Sarah, my engineer, peered at the walls, her fingers brushing against the strange symbols etched into the surface. "What do you think these mean?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "They look like a form of writing," Marco, our scientist, interjected, squinting at the glyphs. "If we can decode them, we might gain some insight into this civilization." Emily, our navigator, scanned the area with her handheld device. "I'm detecting energy signatures all around us. They're fluctuating, but it's unlike anything I've seen before." I nodded, feeling a surge of determination. "Let's keep moving. We need to uncover the purpose of this place." As we ventured deeper, the atmosphere shifted. The air crackled with a tension that made the hair on my neck stand up. We soon entered a grand hall, where a massive holographic projection flickered to life in the center. An alien figure loomed over us, its features sharp and angular, its eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. "Who dares disturb the sanctity of this fortress?" the hologram boomed, its voice echoing around the chamber. "You seek knowledge, but knowledge comes with a price." I stepped forward, my heart pounding. "We mean no harm. We're explorers, trying to understand the history of this civilization." The hologram's eyes narrowed. "The past is not for the faint of heart. You tread a dangerous path. Turn back now, or face the consequences." "Jake, we should consider this warning," Emily said, her voice shaky. "What if this fortress is protecting something more sinister?" I could see the fear in her eyes, and it mirrored the doubt creeping into my own mind. "But what if there's technology here that could benefit humanity?" I countered. "We can't let fear dictate our actions. We have to uncover the truth." Marco chimed in, "I agree with Jake. If we leave now, we may never get another chance to understand this technology. We have to press on." The hologram flickered, and I could almost sense the tension in the air grow heavier. "You will regret your choice," it warned, before the image vanished, leaving us in an uncomfortable silence. I took a deep breath, trying to shake off the feeling of dread that settled over me. "Let's keep moving. We need to find the core of this place." As we progressed, I felt a surge of energy ripple through the fortress, and the lights began to flicker erratically. Suddenly, alarms blared, their shrill sound cutting through the silence like a knife. The ground shook beneath our feet, and I instinctively reached for my crew. "Everyone, stay together!" I shouted, but before I could grab Emily's hand, a surge of energy shot through the corridor, sending us sprawling in different directions. I landed hard on the ground, the impact jarring my senses. "Jake!" I heard Sarah's voice call out, but it was swallowed by the chaos around us. I scrambled to my feet, heart racing as I looked around. The corridor was now a maze of flickering lights and shadows. "Where are you guys?" I yelled, my voice echoing off the walls. Panic crept in as I realized I was alone in the darkened corridor, a stark contrast to the vibrant life of the Starship Endeavour. I took a cautious step forward, the air thick with a palpable energy that sent shivers down my spine. "Guys, can you hear me?" I called out, but only silence answered. The shadows danced around me as I moved deeper into the fortress. I could hear distant alarms and the sound of something shifting in the darkness. My heart raced as I felt the weight of the fortress closing in around me, the walls whispering secrets I couldn't comprehend. Suddenly, the lights flickered again, revealing a glimpse of something. Was it a figure? I squinted, trying to make sense of the shadows, but they slipped away like smoke. "I'm not afraid of you," I shouted defiantly, though a part of me trembled at the uncertainty. Then I heard it, a faint whisper, like a memory carried on the wind. "Jake," the voice called, echoing faintly. "Who's there?" I demanded, the urgency in my voice betraying my fear. But the corridor remained silent, save for the blaring alarms and the thrum of energy coursing through the walls. I felt an overwhelming urge to find my crew, to reconnect with them before whatever malevolent force lurked within these walls could ensnare me as well. The darkness enveloped me as I stumbled through the labyrinthine corridors of the fortress. I pressed forward, my heart pounding in my chest, echoing in the silence that had engulfed this alien structure. The air was thick, almost oppressive, and I could feel the weight of 1,000 forgotten histories pressing down on me. Shadows flickered at the edge of my vision, and I could have sworn I heard whispers, echoes of long-dead voices. "Hello," I called out, trying to mask the tremor in my voice. The only response was the soft hum of the fortress, as if it were alive, breathing in the darkness. The once familiar sounds of my crew were now distant memories, replaced by the eerie silence that seemed to close in around me. I pulled out my communicator, but the static was relentless. Sarah?
Marco?
Emily? I shouted, hoping against hope that one of them was close enough to hear me. Jake. A voice suddenly pierced the gloom. It was Emily's, sounding distant and strained. We're trying to regroup. Can you find the control room? We need to get back together. I'll do my best, I replied, moving toward the sound of her voice. I navigated through the narrow passageways, my hands brushing against the cold, unfamiliar walls. The alien symbols glowed faintly, illuminating my path like starlight in a forgotten galaxy. Work together. Marco scoffed, backing away. You think I'm going to hand over this power? I can't let you take it from me. With a sudden burst of energy, he activated the device. A blinding light filled the chamber, and I felt a surge of heat wash over me. Get back. I yelled, lunging toward him, but the energy field expanded, pushing me away. Jake. Sarah shouted, her voice rising in terror as she reached for me. We have to stop him. The fortress continued to shake, and I could see the walls starting to crack. Marco, you have to listen. I pleaded, desperation creeping into my tone. This isn't going to end well for any of us. He hesitated, just for a moment, and in that instant, I seized the opportunity. I charged forward, trying to wrest the device from his grip. Let it go. I shouted, adrenaline coursing through my veins. He fought back, the device crackling with energy between us, and I could feel the raw power it contained. You don't understand, he yelled, his face twisted with fury. This is our only chance. In the chaos, Sarah and Emily joined the fray, each trying to pull Marco away from the device. The fortress shuddered once more, alarm klaxons blaring, and I could hear the distant sounds of machinery overheating. We're out of time. I bellowed, my voice barely rising above the cacophony. Suddenly, the floor beneath us cracked open, a fissure of light glowing ominously. We have to disable it now. Emily screamed, her eyes wide with fear. In that moment, I realized what had to be done. Marco, if you don't help us, we're all going to die. I shouted, trying to reach the humanity within him. We can't let this fortress control us. With a fierce determination, he looked at me, and I saw a flicker of doubt cross his face. What do you want me to do? Help us disable the device. Together we can shut it down, I urged, my heart racing. You know this isn't what you really want. He hesitated, glancing back at the device, which was now pulsating wildly, as if it were alive. The fortress shook violently, debris falling from the ceiling. All right, he finally shouted, his voice strained. Let's do it. We moved as one, racing against time, adrenaline fueling our every action. As we reached the control panel, I could feel the energy building around us. We had to act fast, before it was too late. As I stood on the bridge of the Endeavor, the weight of Jake's absence pressed heavily on my chest. The control panel blinked with alerts, but the cacophony of alarms paled in comparison to the silence left by our captain. I could feel the tension in the air as Emily paced beside me, her brow furrowed in determination. We can't let Marco get away with this, she said, breaking the silence. We have to confront him before he can use that technology on Earth. I nodded, trying to shake off the numbness that had settled in. We need a plan. If he's harnessed the fortress's energy, he'll be more powerful than ever. The memory of Marco's betrayal loomed over us, vivid and painful. I could still hear the echoes of his laughter as he revealed his intentions, the madness that had taken hold of him. Let's split up, Emily suggested, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. I'll take the lower decks to see if I can find a way to cut off his access to the ship systems. You handle the bridge. Be careful, I warned her, concern threading through my words. We don't know what he's capable of now. I will, she replied, giving me a reassuring nod before heading towards the exit. I took a deep breath, the smell of metal and faint ozone filling my nostrils, and prepared myself for the confrontation ahead. As I moved towards the control panel, I couldn't shake the image of Jake from my mind. His unwavering belief in our mission, his ability to inspire us when the odds were stacked against us. I'll make this right, Jake, I whispered, feeling his spirit guide me through the chaos. The ship's systems hummed ominously as I accessed the control panel. I could see Marco's shadow flitting across the main screen, his figure illuminated by the flickering lights. "You think you can stop me?" he taunted, his voice dripping with arrogance. "With the power of this fortress, I am unstoppable." "Marco," I shouted, my heart racing. "You've lost your mind. This isn't about power, it's about survival. You're risking everything we've worked for." "Survival?" He laughed, a hollow sound echoing through the bridge. "You still don't see it, do you? With this technology, I can reshape humanity. They'll bow to me, and I'll show them the true meaning of power. Power is not control, Marco. It's about protecting those who can't protect themselves. Jake sacrificed everything to save us. Don't let his death be in vain." For a moment, there was silence. Then, a flicker of uncertainty crossed his features, but it was quickly replaced by rage. "You think you can talk me down? You're nothing without your precious captain." I turned a corner and nearly collided with a towering structure, a monolith that seemed to pulse with energy. My heart raced as I approached it, the whispers growing louder, swirling around me like a tempest. What had we awakened? A flicker of movement caught my eye, and I spun around, adrenaline surging through my veins. Shadows danced in the corners of my vision, teasing my senses. I was not alone. "Is anyone there?" I called, but the only answer was the low hum of machinery coming to life around me. Just then, I heard a crash from further down the hall. "Marco," I called, my voice echoing off the walls. Silence followed, and I felt an unsettling chill creep down my spine. I knew I had to keep moving, to find my team and escape this nightmare. Meanwhile, Sarah and Marco were frantically trying to locate me. "Jake, can you hear me?" Sarah's voice crackled through my communicator, laced with urgency. "I'm here. I'll find you." I responded, my determination growing stronger with each step. I pressed on, weaving through the darkened halls, but the shadows seemed to twist and shift around me, almost as if they were alive. As I turned another corner, I stumbled into a vast chamber filled with alien artifacts. My breath caught in my throat as I gazed at the strange, shimmering objects. In the center stood a control panel, its surface etched with the same symbols that adorned the fortress. I felt an inexplicable pull toward it, as though it were calling out to me. "Jake, watch out." Emily's voice broke through the silence, startling me. I turned, but it was too late. A surge of energy erupted from the panel, illuminating the chamber with blinding light. I shielded my eyes and stumbled backward, the ground rumbling beneath me. "Are you okay?" Emily rushed in, her face pale. "What happened?" "I found something," I stammered, gesturing toward the control panel. "It's like it's alive. It was trying to communicate." "Communicate?" Marco echoed, catching up to us. "What do you mean?" "I don't know," I admitted, feeling the weight of their gazes. "But I think it has something to do with the civilization that built this place. They had plans to control other worlds." "What do you mean, control?" Sarah pressed, her brow furrowed. I took a deep breath, trying to process the implications. I saw a recording, a glimpse of their intentions. They wanted to dominate other species through mind control. Mind control. Marco scoffed, his eyes narrowing. "That's insane. We should harness this technology for ourselves. Imagine the power we could wield." I stared at him, my heart sinking. "Marco, this isn't about power. It's about understanding what they did and preventing it from happening again." "Understanding?" he shot back, his voice rising. "Or using it to our advantage. Don't you see? This is our chance to be more than just explorers." Tension crackled in the air, thickening like smoke. "We're not here to conquer," I insisted, trying to keep my voice steady. "We're here to learn." But the uncertainty lingered, and as we stood there, the fortress itself seemed to pulse in response to our emotions, a silent witness to our internal conflict. The air was thick with tension as Marco stepped forward, his face a mask of determination. I could feel the weight of his words pressing down on us like a physical force. "You don't understand," he said, voice low but charged. "This technology can give us control over everything, over planets, over people. We can reshape humanity." "Marco, this isn't what we came here for," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady despite the storm brewing inside me. "We need to learn from this civilization, not bend it to our will." He laughed, a harsh sound that echoed in the vast chamber. Learn? You think they left this behind for our benefit? It's a weapon, Jake. A means to dominate. Why not use it? We could become gods. I exchanged glances with Sarah and Emily, both of them wide-eyed, their disbelief palpable. You're talking about genocide, Sarah interjected, stepping closer to Marco. You want to repeat the mistakes of the past. Don't you see? Marco's eyes gleamed with a manic fervor. We have the chance to prevent wars, to unify humanity under one banner. This device, he pulled out a small ornate object from his pack, its surface pulsating with energy, can amplify the fortress's power exponentially. Just imagine what we could do. Marco, put that down. I shouted, instinctively moving closer, my heart pounding in my chest. You don't know what you're messing with. We have no idea how to control it. Exactly. And that's why we need to try. His voice rose, echoing off the walls, filled with an urgency that made my skin crawl. Or are you too afraid to embrace the future? Before I could respond, the fortress shuddered violently, lights flickering as alarms blared. The ground beneath us trembled, and I could hear the distant rumble of something dangerously unstable. What did you do? Emily cried, her voice laced with panic. I didn't do anything. Marco shouted back, but his eyes darted to the device in his hands with a hint of guilt. This place is reacting to us. It knows we're here. Then we need to disable it. I urged, moving towards him. We can't let this fortress explode. We have to work together. Just then, I felt a surge of energy course through the ship. I realized that Emily must have found a way to access the lower decks and was trying to disrupt his control. Emily, I hope you're ready. I called out, my voice steady despite the chaos swirling around us. I'm ready, she shouted back. I'm shutting down the auxiliary systems. He won't be able to control the ship much longer. Marco's face twisted in fury. You're making a mistake. You're siding with a dead man. He lunged for the control panel, but I was quicker, slamming my hand down on the override switch. The lights flickered again as the ship's systems began to shut down. Sarah now. Emily's voice rang through the comms, urgency lacing her words. With a deep breath, I activated the containment field. The energy surged, enveloping Marco in a shimmering barrier. He screamed, the sound a mix of rage and panic. You can't do this. I am the future. You're a fool, I replied, my voice firm. And a danger to everyone. We're not letting you take this power. As the containment field closed around him, I could see the realization dawn in his eyes. It was too late for him now. Emily joined me on the bridge, breathing heavily as the alarms finally began to quiet. We did it, she said, a mixture of relief and disbelief in her tone. Yes, but at what cost? I murmured, glancing at the empty seat where Jake used to sit. The weight of our victory felt heavy, shadowed by the loss we had endured. Together, we had faced down a threat, but the scars of betrayal and sacrifice would linger long after the battle was over. As we navigated back into the depths of space, I felt a flicker of hope amidst the sorrow. Jake may be gone, but his spirit and the lessons he taught us would guide us. We would honor his memory, and together, we would ensure that the darkness we had uncovered would never see the light of day again. As I stood there in the control room, Marco contained and my heart still heavy with the loss of Jake, I felt a surge of determination coursing through me. We have to go back, I said, turning to Sarah and Emily, my voice steady despite the swirling emotions inside me. We have to destroy the core of the fortress before anyone else can misuse its technology. Emily nodded, her face set with resolve. Jake would want that. We can't let Marco's greed and the fortress's power taint what we've learned. With a shared understanding, we navigated the now familiar halls of the fortress, each step echoing with memories of our fallen captain. The lights flickered ominously, casting long shadows that danced along the walls, and I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. Maybe it was just my mind playing tricks on me, haunted by the whispers of the fortress, or perhaps it was Jake's spirit guiding us forward. As we reached the chamber housing the core, we were met with an unsettling sight. Holographic projections flickered to life, revealing Jake's familiar face, though it flickered with an ethereal light. My heart raced. Jake. I whispered, unable to believe my eyes. Sarah, Emily, he said, his voice echoing through the chamber, filled with urgency. I'm here. I managed to transfer my consciousness into the fortress's systems before the explosion. You have to listen to me. Jake, we thought we lost you. Emily exclaimed, her voice trembling with both joy and sorrow. You didn't lose me, he replied, his image stabilizing, the flicker of light softening. But the fortress still holds a part of me. You need to destroy the core. It's the only way to prevent Marco, and anyone else, from harnessing its power. He was influenced by the remaining energy here, it preyed on his ambitions. I felt a surge of anger for what Marco had become, but also a pang of pity. We will destroy it, Jake. We promise, I said, gripping the edge of the control panel. Jake's holographic image flickered again, his expression serious. You must act quickly. Time is running out, and the fortress is unstable. Trust in each other, just as you always have. With renewed purpose, we moved toward the core, the pulsing energy emanating from it feeling almost alive. On 3, I said, glancing at Sarah and Emily. 1, 2, 3. We pressed the sequence of buttons simultaneously, our hearts racing as alarms blared, and the core's energy surged in response. It's reacting. Sarah shouted over the cacophony. We need to redirect the energy away from the containment field. As we worked frantically, a sudden powerful surge of energy erupted from the core, sending us sprawling to the ground. I looked up in horror as Marco's figure emerged from the shadows, rage etched on his face. You think you can destroy me? This power is mine, he bellowed, his voice a mixture of desperation and fury. In a final act of defiance, Marco lunged toward us, but the energy from the core surged again, engulfing him. No, he screamed, the sound echoing hauntingly as the fortress's energy overwhelmed him. I felt a mix of fear and relief as the energy spiraled around him, consuming him entirely. Now! I shouted, my voice cutting through the chaos. We resumed our efforts, our fingers flying over the controls. Redirect the energy to the core's containment. We have to overload it. With one last push, we activated the overload sequence. The core trembled, and the lights flickered wildly. I could feel Jake's presence surrounding us, urging us on. You can do this, he seemed to say, his voice a gentle whisper in my mind. As the fortress began to implode, a brilliant light filled the chamber, and I knew that Jake's consciousness was fading. I'm proud of you, his voice echoed one last time before the light enveloped everything. We sprinted toward the exit, the walls shaking violently around us. I could hear the fortress groaning, its ancient structure giving way to the destruction we had set in motion. Just as we reached the exit, the last remnants of the fortress imploded behind us, a blinding flash of light illuminating the space before us. We stumbled onto the surface, gasping for breath, as the remnants of the fortress vanished into the void. I turned to Sarah and Emily, tears brimming in my eyes. We did it, I whispered, but at what cost? In that moment, we knew that we would carry Jake's memory with us as we navigated the vastness of space, vowing to use our knowledge for good, honoring the sacrifice he made for us. We stood together, united in our resolve, ready to face whatever came next, knowing that we were stronger together.